Members of the chapter, it is time to grab your magnifying glass and be able to scrutinize some action figures rather carefully. Welcome on in, this is your channel master, Spoos and Studs, and in this one we are going to be taking a look at the 3 different versions of the Terminators that JoyToy has released. Now, I'm not really going to be going into the cosmetic details with regards to these Terminators, but what I am going to go down in excruciating detail is taking a look at how these action figures tick. With the name of JoyToy, it's by vibration, of course, right? No, we are going to be taking a look at the nuts and bolts, the joints and sockets that make these action figures. So let's dive on into this video and take a look at what exactly are the differences in these 3 versions of Terminators. And so here we go. On the left hand side we have the version 1 Grey Knight, in the middle we have the version 2 Space Marine Captain, and then we have the version 3 Ultramarines Captain on the right hand side. An example of the V1 Terminators are going to be obviously your Grey Knights and your Black Legion Chaos Terminators. Your version 2 ones are going to be the Firstborn Ultramarines Captain, like this guy right here, and then the Firstborn Ultramarines Terminator Squad, as well as the Blood Angels Assault Terminators. Examples of version 3 started off with the Deathwing Knights and so on and so forth. The version 1 pauldron here uses the same attachment with this plastic loop right here that is seen in the current version 3 regular Marines, which I think is a little bit anemic to support the weight of the arms. As you can see right here, notice that the hole where the shoulder peg attaches is really small and reflects the size of the look on the regular Marines today. Version 2 uses the same concept of this plastic loop, except that this loop right here is going to be longer and the hole where the peg fits is much larger. The plastic itself, I believe, is a little bit more rigid and more robust to match the chunkiness of a Terminator. Now, the version 3, in my opinion, is the best version to date. Why do I say that? Well, this pauldron is attached right here by a ball and socket and allows for maximum stability when posing. You're able to rock this area back and forth to that joint right there. And I think this actually adds for a wider range of mobility for posing as opposed to the other 2 configurations. Now, with regards to the arm, the version 1 has a very tiny peg or nubbin that fits in the shoulder socket of the Terminator. I think that this smaller peg may stress this joint because of the weight of the arms. And this joint also can be moved in up and down motion. The version 2 has improved on the tiny peg that is seen in version 1, in that there's a very large nub now that fits into the shoulder area of the Marine. Like the version 1, the peg can be moved up and down as well. In version 3, even though you can't see it, the arm is similar to the version 2, where the peg is large and can be moved up and down like this as it squeaks. I want to apologize beforehand because I could not remove the arm from its socket because I really was afraid of breaking this attachment right here. So you're just going to have to take my word for it. So the elbow region is double jointed on all 3 versions. However, the construction of the V1 and V2 are quite similar, whereas in this V3 version is more different than the other 2 in that the hinge is a lot thicker right here. On the version 1 and the version 2, the size of the hands are pretty much the same. The flexibility of these hands are kind of equivalent to a person who is suffering arthritis and therefore not very good on these versions due to how this plastic is rather inflexible. But hey, you know what? At least they're able to grasp a weapon without issue. So here on the version 3 Terminator hands, it's larger than the other 2, as you can see right here, just because the version 1 and version 2 are on smaller Terminators. The limber hands right here, as you can see, on this version reflect the version 3 Primaris Marines hands in that they are a lot more flexible, but not so flexible where the Marine cannot hold the weapon properly. So the version 1 and version 3 construction of the shoulder joints are much more similar to each other than version 2. Both the version 1 and version 3 features this loop where the arm peg fits in, and you can move this area forward, so this allows the Marine for more posability because the Marine can move the arms closer into the chest. Now, the version 2 has a deep socket and is completely missing that black plastic loop, which hinders the posability of the action figure. There's nothing like not being able to reach an item at the center of your body, so there was a regression into simplicity before JoyToy brought their A game again in version 3. So underneath the area where the chest attaches to the torso on the version 1 and version 2, there are these large plastic ball joints. However, on version 3, on the other hand, this has a shiny disco ball joint, which indicates that this joint is made of metal instead. Perhaps this change was made for better durability and to be able to perform when operating it over an extended period of time. This version 1 torso is a slight cylindrical shape with concave ends right here. There are no adornments whatsoever. And in the version 2, the torso changes into kind of like this dome shape where the top is more narrow than the bottom. The concavity is also there on the bottom as well. There is an interesting note in that there is a Chinese character for bottom on the bottom of the dome, which probably gives the person direction on how to assemble this action figure. Now, the version 3 is more of a convex cylinder shape that has the most spice because you see these nice soft armor areas. On another side note, there is a Chinese symbol for up here. And finally, at the bottom of the torso, there is an area that is extremely recessed as the Grand Canyon compared to the other two versions. So once again, we have the version 1 Grey Knight, version 2 Ultramarines Captain, and version 3 Ultramarines Captain. With regards to the hip joint, this version 1 hip joint is absolutely anemic. The size of this T-shaped ball and socket joint is 100% exactly the same as the regular Primaris Marine, and those figures weigh so much less. It is hard to believe that something this tiny can support the weight of the Terminator. Now, the version 2 addresses this issue, and JoyToy veered away from the regular Primaris T-joint and upgraded into a more massive and tumescent looking T-joint. Now this one looks like it can support the weight of a lumbering Hulk. The version 3 one, the top part where the hip joint attaches the torso, is kind of the same as the version 2 in the thickness of it. However, the biggest difference is where the top of the T area is not there and is replaced by these two socket joints on each side of this. On the legs, the version 1 hole where the joint attaches to the hip is the smallest of all three of them. Again, it makes you wonder how this area can support the mass of the Marine. And then in the version 2, the area is much larger. And then finally, in version 3, the area has the most noticeable difference due to the existence of a metal ball and socket joint. The socket area seems to be smaller than the version 2 area, but again is reinforced by this awesome metal joint. So I love the gradual and subtle evolution that JoyToy has been bringing to their action figures. So with regards to the knee, they're all double jointed, but the thickness of the knees vary between the three separate versions. So the version 1 has the thinnest of all knee joints and keeps in line with the whole look of the version 1 Terminators. There's an area right here that allows the armor joint to attach to the knee. With the version 2, this joint right here is thicker and the armor panel attachment is gone and is replaced by this soft type of armor area. And finally, with the version 3 knee, this is the beefiest of all of them, and the construction is somewhat similar to the version 2 knee. With regards to the ankle and feet, for version 1 and version 2, the ankle joint right here is a plastic ball and socket joint. The size of the ball and socket are similar, if not completely the same. With the version 3, the ankle joint is nice and shiny, which indicates that this is made of metal, which again adds more weight bearing and sturdiness. With regards to the construction of the feet, version 1 and version 2 are similar to each other in terms of size as well. It would appear that the version 1 foot has more of an angular shape towards the ankle area, whereas the version 2 is completely flat in comparison, and version 3 differs the most out of all of them, bearing a resemblance to an empty shoe from the side profile. So folks, I hope you enjoyed this teardown video of all the different versions of the Terminators, and now it is time to wrap this video up. So members of the chapter, I sincerely hope that you enjoyed this Terminator teardown video. I know that we typically do not take apart our action figures, but me being a content creator, well, I wanted to see exactly what made these JoyToy action figures tick on the inside, and I believe that I have given you a pretty clear picture of all the different kinds of joints and sockets that make these versions of Terminators different. What conclusions can we draw? Well, the quickest way of differentiating between these Terminators is obviously going to the pauldrons. and taking a look at what the differences are. And so if you're interested in picking up any of these Terminators, you can click in the link in the description below, where you will be brought to David Toys, where I get every single one of my action figures. However, I do not believe that this Grey Knight is going to be available for you to purchase just because it's been out of print for a little bit, but I'm pretty sure that you can get these two Terminators in front of me right now. And before you check out, do not forget to use the code SNS to save 12% on your total purchase. Closing out, I want to thank everybody who watches these videos. Again, we have seen an enormous amount of interest in this channel, and it shows with all the subscriptions as well as the likes and shares. I am very appreciative to every single one of you for watching, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.